very good afternoon to one and all present here. I take great pride in welcoming you to yet another speaker session at the ninth edition of the Sri Ram Economic Summit, Asia's largest undergraduate economic summit, brought to you by GuruQ and Bloomberg Quint. It's our pleasure to announce that SRES 2021 is now streaming live on India Today. An investor with a Midas touch and a Dalal Street mogul, our next speaker needs no introduction. Hailing from Mumbai, he started dabbling in the stock market while still in college, and what came next is the stuff of national pride. The owner of Rare Enterprises, he's also considered to be the 38th richest man in the country, according to Forbes estimates. Having invested in coveted companies like Titan, CRISIL, and Aurobindo Pharma, among others, our next speaker is a force to be reckoned with. The perfect blend of hard work and talent, he's aced the art of identifying profitable stocks at a very nascent stage. Popularly referred to as the Big Bull, I am immensely honored to present Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. Thank you so much, sir, for gracing us with your presence today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, sir. A former stocks editor at ET Now and currently serving as the markets editor at Bloomberg Quint, he is one of the pioneering voices in the world of financial journalism. We are delighted and honored to introduce Mr. Neeraj Shah. Sir, we are elated to have you on board as the interviewer for this session.
Thank you, Niyati, and thank you everybody for allowing me to do this conversation. It's always a pleasure and something to look forward to when you're talking to Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, and I'm sure today is no different. Mr. Jhunjhunwala, I hope all is safe with you and family.
So far, so good.
That's great to know. Just before we start the session, I just want to tell everybody who's participating in this, please feel free to put in any questions that you have for Mr. Jhunjhunwala. I can assure you over the last 4 days in a couple of email exchanges, Mr. Jhunjhunwala has gone to great lengths to ensure this conversation is more about what students can learn from him as opposed to market dynamics. So if you have questions for him, please feel free to put it in the Q&A chat box, and I'll try and take some of them as time permits. But Mr. Jhunjhunwala, allow me to ask you a few questions from my side before I throw the floor open to the students for questions. What's your sense, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, about how young minds who are right now looking at this, or the others who will probably see this later on as well, because I understand this is live, should do to analyze the current economic, geopolitical situation, as well as what's happening in the investing world, because there's lots happening.
Well, what you have to use remains common all the time. And the most common sense is common sense. And see, I want to first explain to the audience the importance of markets.
Sure.
Prior to the industrial revolution, most people used to do business with their own capital. Now the industrial revolution required large investments. So people started taking money from others, and then there became a differentiation between management and ownership. And a lot of people contributed to capital. Now people because they wanted to limit the risk, came the concept of a limited liability company. So if 50 people came together, 5 managed, 45 were investors, and that was, there was limited liability to everybody. Risk had also gone up as need of capital went up. Then there was a need to change the ownership or provide liquidity to the investor. And that's why came up the stock exchanges. So the stock exchanges are the absolute need of any vibrant capitalist society, or most societies will use capital. Wherever society uses private capital, needs stock markets. Now, the stock market is many manifested. Interviewing Priyanka Chopra, I told her, just like the Kama Sutra, you have to use all senses in the stock market. And most senses can be used only through experience. There are things in life which can't be taught, they have to be learned, including markets and cooking. So, a general reading, knowledge of financial statements, history, human psychology. I think these are all, very required facets for investing or trading in markets. For me, I read at least 2 hours a day, right? And I try to keep up with things. I read the India Today to know what's happening in India. I read the economics magazine to what's happening internationally. And every day there is something new and very refreshing to read. Also, I think there has to be a love for markets. And I think the biggest quality you need is to understand that the quest to learn is a journey and not a destination. I have much learned, but much still to be learned. So you got to have an opinion and open-minded mind. And the ability, the modern world is all about the ability to anticipate change, prepare for it, and benefit. So you don't have an open mind, you cannot recognize change, you cannot change, and you cannot benefit. Remember, Miss Sen, Shushmita Sen, won the world Miss World contest against Aishwarya Rai because she said change is the only constant. So it's a multifaceted market fraught with opportunity, risk, right? And it's very ego fulfilling to be right in this market. It's not so much the wealth, it's the kind of enjoyment you get to know that you are right. And we invest in a future, the future is always uncertain. So we invest in the realms of possibilities. And risk figure, I would say an odds figure. And remember one thing, that risk is not volatility. Risk is permanent loss of capital. Also, I think the ability to accept defeat. Churchill has said, you have to lose many a battle to win a war. So unless and until you are ready to accept that you are wrong and change, you will be left behind. I think if God gave me 20 lives, I'll tell him, boss, same market, same country, same parents, same wife, same children, same friends. So markets are for me my life, my obsession, my enjoyment, and a source of some wealth. The last being not so important.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a different start that what I've seen in the past. Let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions on that, Mr. Junjunwala. If I'm not wrong, I understand you as a man of high conviction and high opinion, and in the same breath, you say that it's very vital to accept when you are wrong and change tacks as well. Are you a lot more nimble-footed than what maybe? And how important would that nimble-footedness be in investing as well as in trading?
Well, I'll take two separately. Trading is le phatapat, le phatapat. So trading, you have to take very short-term decisions, right? Because you cannot. For trading, you need three things. There are only two horses, bull and bear, right? So you need to have a broad idea of the market. Don't try to be too expert. This will go up by 5%. This will go about. You can know the trend. You can't know the depth, right? So have a broad direction of the market. Follow the trend. Know what to lose, what to risk, and know when to take a loss. Churchill has said you have to lose many a battle to win a war. So if you're wrong, you're wrong, right? We will fight. We will live to fight another day. And in trading, in investing, I invest with great conviction, right? I give it a lot of time, sometimes more than I should. But if I'm wrong, I accept. What's wrong? I'm not afraid to make a mistake. I only want to make one which I can afford. So I may live to make another one. So I'm not, there is nothing like, but if you have patience, your patience will be tested, but your conviction will be rewarded. But you can't wait for eternity for that.
Okay.
And remember one thing, markets are always right. If you feel market is not right and you are a market setter and you are a boss, you know everything, boss, you'll end up in Jumri Talega.
Okay. That's coming from you. That's a telling point as well.
No, I have made so many mistakes in life.
Yes.
I've made so many mistakes in life and no regrets. Life is about learning and not about regrets. Only thing is I should learn from the mistakes.
Yeah. I mean, maybe at some point of time, I'd love you to maybe, if you can, and if you feel like, illustrate maybe one of those things. But just one follow-up question, Mr. Junjunwala. I've heard you once in one of your previous interactions talk about how any great investment would be a factor of a combination of a few factors, including the study, the conviction that one has, and patience. As you rightly said, patience will be rewarded. What do you reckon is the most important ingredient for a young mind to start inculcating in her or him in order to be successful at this act?
First, they should love markets. They should be passionate about markets. They should have some idea of financial statements. They should have more wisdom and less intelligence. Remember, it's an act of wisdom, not an act of intelligence. Plus, you realize that, see, you're living in a future. The future is going to be uncertain. Right? So, how you assess the future, right, is how well you will invest. And also, I think people make a lot of mistakes because they don't want to acknowledge them. They feel market is wrong, they are right. And I think without passion, you should have curiosity. And remember one thing, everything in the world affects markets. And never forget, it's nothing but human psychology, which has prevailed right from the Stone Age, and no technology and no artificial intelligence is going to be able to change it. Because finally, it is human intuition. And knowing what to risk, and don't trade with your mother's money and your father-in-law's money and your husband's money, right? And remember one thing, it is fire. You are entering fire. Be vigilant. It's not so easy to make money in markets, and it's more difficult to retain it and grow it. And you should know what to risk. And I think, someone says we will buy 500 shares. No amount of shares are small. And I see a lot of ladies here. Ladies, in my opinion, are both financially, emotionally better than men. And they're fun, because women are in India are brought up with frugality.
Yeah.
So, must retain that, that helps when you think about financial matters. And don't think, the attitude of the market is, I should go to one bar, Jeffries in Bombay, have a drink. People will come at 8 o'clock, Su lage che. And then I work full day now. Don't trouble me. Then one Sundar Kanya will come and say, what should I buy? So I tell her, buy XYZ. How much will you go? I said, it should double in 3 to 4 years. Only. I gave her the, address of the Mahalakshmi race course. This is not a race course. Your attitude should be that if alternative investments give you 6-7% return, equity gives you 14 to 18% return, you're a king. In 18% return, your money doubles in 4 years. In 6% return, it doubles in 12 years. So understand the difference between 6 and 18. And for myself, if I get 18% return on my portfolio, I'm a king. If I get 21%, I'm an emperor. That's what I target.
Okay. The other factor, Mr. Junjunwala, at least when I was in college, I was always of the opinion, and I was a marketing student, but I was always of the opinion that if I can't read balance sheet, P&Ls and numbers very correctly, I can't become a good investor. Would you reckon that's a prerequisite, or it's something that can, be learned alongside, or have?
It's not a prerequisite. It can be learned alongside. Because let's see, what is education? Education is the power to think. Education is basically a development of the mind and the personality. If your mind and personality is developed, you can understand all fields.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily a prerequisite, but surely it's an advantage.
It's an advantage. Okay. A couple of questions before I start taking.
A balance sheet is
sorry.
Neeraj, they say a balance sheet like a bikini. What it reveals is alluring, what it hides is white. So balance sheets are not the beginning and end.
Yeah, that's true. I just have one question, because you spoke about how when people are entering the markets, they are dealing with fire. I think there is, I'm guessing this would be a question in the minds of a lot of the people right now attending the webinar as well, that should a second wave of COVID coming in? Should it worry people, etc.? Does it worry Rakesh Jhunjhunwala that India and indeed the world over we are seeing these rising cases? How does he deal with such sudden?
It doesn't worry me. Neither it's a flu, it's not a cancer. And remember one thing, that we have been able to get a vaccine.
Yes.
We are treating the patients much better. It's a passing, it's a passing cloud. And remember one thing, that all negative, the word of crisis in Chinese is opportunity. In all crisis, there is opportunity. So I'm not so worried about the COVID. I don't think, if I give statistics, and please hear carefully. India has a population of 140 crores. All of us on an average have flu for a week. So there are 980 man days of flu in India. If you divide it by the number of days, approximately 25 lakh Indians have flu every day. And if it lasts for a week, about 3 lakh 75,000 enter it and 3 lakh 75,000 leave it every day. And tell me one thing, this could affect the earnings of the companies for next 2 months or next 3 months. What about the balance? See, you got to analyze, be careful of companies who may die because they have no capital to face the flu. Apart from that, I think this is the biggest opportunity to buy the most battered companies. And the
Okay.
human race has conquered many crises. And most crises have been followed with booms. And we heard of the roaring 20s in America. So I would have liked that the second wave not come, but once it does come, we'll face it and overcome it.
Okay. Let me set the base for the questions to come in, Mr. Jhunjhunwala. I heard you in a recent event wherein you said it's not just the decade, but the century belongs to India. I'm presuming that if you want to make money, you need to be optimistic and bullish on India as well. Can you just talk a bit about that, and then I'll get in the questions from the students?
See, I'm very bullish on India because I think every organism, every organization, every human, every country has a chemistry. Right? The chemistry is unique with everybody. Now, if you look at societies worldwide, societies are required only two conditions to achieve prosperity and retain it for long. One is skills. The richest people permanently in the world countries are not the ones who have oil or who have steel or who have natural resources. The most prosperous countries are the ones whose people are skilled. And I think India can match skills of any civilization, any country in the world. Right? The NRIs are so successful abroad. They're all the genes are Indian. We made the atomic bomb. We did not steal the technology. We did not sell it. We sent the mission to Mars. If you look at it, go into the details, you go crazy. I don't know how many times you have to go into gravity and come out. Right? And we did 10% of the cost of America. So I think Indians are genetically skilled. Then you need democracy. I think we have a true flourishing democracy. Because that slows down things, but that is the one which makes it last. Then we have entrepreneurship. We have natural resources. Right? I don't think any country in the next 50 years can touch India on services and software. We supply 40% of medicines than any American needs. 40% of all medicines made in America, eaten in America, are made in India. So why should this society not prosper? The problem in this society was there was no ease of doing business. Now, what is the effort of the government to get ease of business? I mean, you couldn't buy potatoes in Bombay for 40 rupees and you couldn't sell potatoes for 2 rupees in Bengal. What are the farm laws about? India has one of the greatest mineral resources of the world. They could not be taxed because of the laws. The labor laws, the PSU privatization, GST, Jan Dhan. So all these things are going to come together. And what makes me really happy is that now we are having true social justice. Every village in this country has electricity. I don't know, you know what the implication of the Nal Se Jal program? 40% disease in India are waterborne. If everybody has water in his house by a tap, then it's phenomenal. So we are now progressing towards the right path. And I spoke to a group of NRIs. I said, what did America give you? A platform. I see that platform coming to India. And most Indians are very, very disappointed and I would say very, very, unhappy, or they don't believe India will ever improve. So I say, boss, be optimistic. I feel like writing an article. Believe in India, my fellow Indians. We will do it. और वो बोलते हैं ना कि हिंदी फिल्म में पंडित बोलते हैं ना कि मुहूर्त का समय हो गया है, हीरोइन को लाओ. तो अभी क्या इंडिया का समय आ गया है. That's what I feel, and I reserve the right to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Hopefully-
my basic concept is the inherent skills and the democracy and the entrepreneurship. And don't forget, India has raised its rate of growth in every decade since India. So there's no question. We have gone from a $90 billion economy to a $2.5 billion economy. 2.6 was just reading a Morgan Stanley report. उम्मीद है. But I hate this. Indians have no faith in India. मरा मुंह लेके जाएंगे तो मरे की खबर लाएंगे. Why don't we believe in ourselves? Why don't we be optimistic? If only can we dream, can we achieve?
Yeah. That's an important statement. I hope all of you are liking the tonality of one of the largest, or probably the largest investor in the country, telling you to be optimistic about India. Now, let me try and take a few questions. I won't be able to take all, obviously. I'll try and take some. Mr. Junjunwala may choose not to answer. So let's try to see what all.
You can ask what you want, I'll answer what I want.
Okay, so Shri Chaudhary from Shri Shri Academy is asking, do you think that the US stock market is overvalued because it is reaching record highs?
Well, as a principle, nothing is overvalued if it is reaching record highs. A high doesn't mean it's overvalued, right? It can go, it may be crazy, it may go to crazier. I think one very important determinant of the US market is going to be inflation. And there are pockets, just like in India, there are pockets of market with a crazily value, and the pockets of markets in America which are reasonably valued. Not that I don't study much because I invest in India only. When the food at home is so good, why go and eat outside? And I'm not allowed by the law also. So it will be difficult to give a flowing statement, that the US markets are overvalued. But they are committed, they new highs, leverage is at the highest levels. So one needs to be very alert. And I don't think it can go, S&P can go to 6,000, who knows? It keep being overvalued in your opinion. And what is value? The two most difficult adjectives in the English language are beauty in a girl and value in a stock. It's so personal to everybody. And what is, and if I argue the interest rates in America are going to be 2%, then a 50p is absolutely justified. So it's going to depend a lot on inflation and the consequent interest rates.
Okay. Can I ask a follow-up, Mr. Junjunwala? I was talking to the chief economist of DBS, who said that COVID doesn't worry him, but if indeed the interest rates or the yields would move up too fast too soon, then that might be a problem for world markets. Would that be?
What I'm saying, but my personal reading and judgment, see, the country which has printed the most capital in the world is Japan. Right? They own some 20% of the stock market, 90% of the bond market. The Central Bank of Japan. There's no inflation. They are trying last 20 years, inflation, and what has happened, that the percentage of commodity cost in the advanced countries in any product is very low. When I drink a Starbucks coffee, I paid $2 for the coffee, but the coffee is 5 cents. Second thing is productivity is allowing usage of less labor. And labor cost is one of the biggest costs in advanced societies. I mean, I asked Mr. Raghuram Rajan once that why inflation not turning up? He said, I also don't know, Rakesh, it's a big mystery. But I think the fact that commodities are not very important and that productivity is going up at a very fast pace with the help of technology and otherwise, that is reducing the need of labor. And I think that is concerned. And also in aging societies, because the number of people who consume doesn't grow. So I think as long as inflation is not there, we are in for a party.
Okay. Before I take the next question, Niyati or Parth, can either of you tell me for how long can we continue this? It's 3:23 currently.
Yes, so we're good to go at least till 3:55.
3:55. Okay. Hey, should we go over? Please just alert me and Mr. Junjunwala, and we'll call it a day. Yeah. Okay. The next question, Mr. Junjunwala, is well, Lokik Gupta is asking how to be the big bull of stock markets. Do you want to take a shot at that?
Sir, bulls are already big, so I don't understand what you mean by big bull. You are a bull because you are big. So why should the big bull be? I don't think it's good to be a bull or a bear all the time. You have to be a chameleon. We got to change as the colors change. So I have not come to the market to be a big bull. I have come to the market to make money. Sometimes bearish positions have made a lot of money in my life.
But you are referred to as the big bull. So
Well, people call me big bull, then they call me Warren Buffett. So big bull means Harshad Mehta. So I don't know what people call me and I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
sure. Okay.
Be the big bull if you're always optimistic. Always see the glass half full, not half empty.
Yeah. Would you reckon that's the mantra to success, Mr. Junjunwala? That you are so
I don't
optimistic?
think so. Just by being bullish,
what are the
I think the mantra to success is realism. Be realist.
Yeah. No, I was just wondering that if you're a pessimist, then I'm guessing you can't make money in the stock markets, right?
95% of the wealth earned in the stock market is by being a bull.
Perfect.
Right? That's a reality. But that doesn't mean you should not be bearish at times. In the Harshad Mehta scandal, I made the biggest money of my life as a bear. And tons of money.
Can I, I'm sorry, but can I ask you this question?
No, you can ask me anything you want. Do not be sorry.
In that series that everybody has seen, which is Scam 1992, one of the most circulated dialogues is of a gentleman who is arguably you saying that bear banit ke moongfali khane ka time chala gaya, ab bull banne ka time hai. Did you actually say that?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
At least I did. I don't remember 28 years ago. But I have been portrayed, according to me, in that series, Harshad Bhai has been portrayed very well.
Yes.
Right? But we were not part of any bull bear cartel, and there was no bear cartel.
Okay. Okay.
And one thing I want students, see, I find people who emulate Harshad Bhai. See, I'm not talking of the morality of, first of all, stealing from a bank, according to me, is morally very wrong. Forget that. What is most, that means he was without brains. Because you should do something which is sustainable. Nobody in the world has been able to control markets. All those who try to control are in the Arthur Road jail. So the question, one, is right or wrong. Second is it sustainable? Can you create value which is not sustainable? I mean, ACC from 100 to 10,000, the Tata sold 2 lakh shares. So what I feel, what we have to learn from it is, first of all, your means are more important than your ends. Remember that. And second thing is, do something which is sustainable. This is, like a demagogue. You can't do it. It's a nasha hai ki I will be rich and I will be king for 1 year.
Yeah. Do something more sustainable. That's a lesson. All right. Nakshatra Ghosh from Don Bosco is asking, well, Nakshatra, okay, let me ask. he or she, I think maybe Nakshatra is a female,
No.
that what is your stock picking mantra? How do you know when to buy a stock and when to sell it?
First is keep an open mind. Second, look at opportunity. I mean, suppose I invest in CRISIL. Look at the CRISIL's opportunity for credit rating in India. It will rise as the financial markets rise. So there should be opportunity gives a large runway for growth. Then it's people, technology, in the sense that people should be able to change. Corporate governance, frugality. Corporate governance includes everything. Your attitude towards society, towards the environment, towards the employees, towards your customers, and towards your stakeholders. And it's an attitude, right? So, opportunity, I mean, then there is a competitive ability. The company must have something superior, right? It could be technology, it could be brand, it could be capital. All this is at one side. The most important thing is what price you buy. It's important what you buy, it's more important at what price you buy. I made a lot of money in Mr. Malia's companies in 2000. When people said he's a thief, you will not own this, that. But I had 5 times my money in one go. And as far as selling, well, I will sell if I have a better alternative investment. But I will sell when I feel, the stock has peaked out or the business model has peaked out. Right? But you must make every decision to sell an independent decision of buying. And don't please, flower your weeds and cut your roses. Just because of loss, I will not cut. मैंने तो कसम खाई है मैं नुकसान में कभी नहीं बेचूंगा. I think it's the biggest bullshit. So this is the way, and also I learned a lot. I started unlisted investing in 2000. I lost a lot of money there. Then again I invested in 2009-10. I lost money. Now in my unlisted portfolio is done better than my listed. So those companies really taught me how businesses grow, what are the challenges, right? What is vital in a company. And see, finally realize one thing, Neeraj. I invest in a credit rating agency. I invest in a jewelry company. I invest in a pharma company. I invest in a communication company. I can't know everything about everything, all the technical details. And finally, for a listed security, a limited amount of knowledge that can be shared by the management, right? So finally, we invest out of informed ignorance. Remember that, because you are ignorant to a certain extent.
Yes.
Finally, you're investing in the realms of possibilities in the future, and you're investing with informed ignorance, both informed and ignorance.
Okay, interesting. Would you say, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, that some of your finest investments, if you will, would have been a factor of you having, because of your size and because of your reach, having access to not insider information? By the way, I'm not trying to allege that. What I'm trying to say is that you having access to information in the right way, which maybe other people miss because they are not following the company that closely, or not attending calls, or not having access to the management, what have you. Is that a important part?
I can tell you one thing, that I was borrowing money and buying title. And the management of and the Tatas, the Tamil Nadu Industrial Development Corporation offered to sell the 25% stake to Tatas, and they didn't buy it. So I think in some of my finest investments, the management did not judge where they will go.
Okay.
So this is all a myth.
Okay.
And you can't buy a stock and retain it for 20 years on basis of information.
Agree completely.
I don't place too much. I don't try to project EBITDA will be 9%, 14%, right? It can be in a range. And the future, the performance is going to be what the future is. And the future is fraught with so many uncertainties.
Sure.
So I have no analysis paralysis. I decide my investment in 10 minutes, right? And then I follow it up.
I thought that was a trade that you decide in 10 minutes. Maybe the investment.
But what I do in many times is I don't buy the entire quantity at one go.
Okay.
I buy it, then I analyze further. I see the performance, right, and then I buy it.
Got it. Okay. Um, uh, okay. Sahas, I'll ask your question in a
I
bit.
like to ask difficult questions. Huh? I don't mind.
Yeah,
Ask the most intelligent questions.
I'm not modifying any questions, Mr. Junjunwala. I'm asking them as they are written out here. Somebody was asking about whether you believe that the current investor, retail or otherwise, takes a look at the green footprint of companies before investing into them. Since maybe I'm paraphrasing it, corporate governance is such a big thing and ESG is such a big thing. Do you think that has started in India now in a big way? Do you do that
I
too?
think corporate governance in India started from a big way the day SEBI was incorporated.
No, green footprint, I meant, sorry.
Pardon?
Green footprint, the ESG, the environmental and social parts, environmental.
I think not only for investing, those companies who are perceived to be good in ESG, they are having very good response to their products. So ESG is important. Nobody is buying tobacco stocks worldwide. So ESG is important.
Okay. Okay.
Whether you like it or not, that then affects valuation of companies.
Great. Okay. Arnav Gupta is asking Mr. Junjunwala, what are your views on technical fundamental analysis? Which one is more important? And do you think, sorry, the question went away, but anyways, yeah, that was the question.
See, for investing, technical analysis is not important because when I bought Titan, no technical analysts were told you to buy Titan. It was in multi-year lows, right? For selling an investment, technical analysis is important. Because ACC in 2000, sorry, Infosys overvalued at 2000. It went to 9,000, right? So that technical analysis or human behavior or situation market tells you it always overvalued. There is time. And what is technical analysis? It is fundamental analysis are important on both for trading and investment, right? For fundamental for investment, fundamental analysis is very important while buying, less important while selling. Fundamental analysis, right? Their technical analysis may be important, and in trading, technical analysis is very important because you play the trend. What is technical analysis? It's a price formation. So if you feel fundamentally and by human psychology, people are bullish, markets are bullish, then you see the formation.
Okay. Would you say that currently, if you are indeed deciding to exit an investment, and you mentioned in an earlier answer that you think of exiting your investments when the company seems to have peaked out, do you make use of technical indicators as well?
Technical indicators can indicate to me that temporarily the price has peaked out. Fundamental analysis will say that the reasons for which you bought the stock have peaked out.
Okay.
And in a modern volatile world where technology is changing so fast, it's important because the life cycle of companies or the success has come down.
True. Actually, a lot of students might be interested in knowing, and in fact, I would be interested in knowing Indian IT companies, the obituaries been written so many times, and they have managed to spring back.
Among Indian
IT companies, the Indian IT services companies, obituaries were written so many times, and they have proved everybody wrong. In the world wherein it seems to be more and more tech and tech enabled, do you think Indian IT services companies will flourish?
They will flourish for a long, long time. See, you go to Ricardo's theory of foreign trade. I don't know, Ricardo was an economist. What he said, a country has an advantage in something. So it grows. The more it grows, the more advantage it gets. So that's what happened to Indian software. Second thing is, I think when you say you're going to have a tech world, the opportunity for technology application is going through the roof. So therefore, there is going to be demand. India has got some of the most skilled engineers whom we get at a very, very reasonable cost. The industries have got size. Indian software has got a brand. So these are the advantages which cannot be killed and which cannot be replaced. I want to know a country, which can get all this. The most difficult thing is the skilled engineers and their cost. So today, Indian companies are, and forget the Indian companies, look at the kind of work large multinational companies are doing on their own in India. Or one of the big seven sister oil companies, all the technical data which they have found in drilling is analyzed in India. That is the most high skilled job. CRISIL is doing so much work for S&P. So whatever Indian companies are exporting, that's important. But India has become the back office of the world. In fact, I have an investment in a KPO, may call it. What the amount of work we are doing for American doctors will surprise you. We are employing about 1,000 doctors in India. And a doctor here costs 60,000 a month, you can't believe. There a nurse costs $100,000. So, and we do it as well. So I think the software industry, it is so important to India's economy, because what is important is not quantum exports. What is important is value added. If I import a diamond for 80 lakhs and export it to 90 lakhs, my figures will show 90 lakhs, but the country gets is 10 lakhs. But in software, 80% of the money comes into India. And even in pharma, I think we're going to be the pharma capital of the world. When I called some Americans, I have investment in a pharma company in Ahmedabad. Some foreigners come, they see the bee farmers working. What do you pay? We tell them 65,000. Oh, you got a bee farmer in 65,000? So our cost, skills, and then we are getting size.
Yeah. Okay.
So, why you ask?
No, sorry. So there is a question out here, which is kind of a follow-up, and I know your answer to that, but I'll ask you nevertheless. What is your view on cryptocurrencies?
I don't have to go to every party in town. Because see, you would ask me, what's your opinion about Harshad Mehta? Right? See, I didn't participate in the bull run. See, the question is, how can a currency, two things I think they can't last. If the dollar goes up by 1%, it's world news. They fluctuate 25% a day, 20% a day. So you go with a budget of cryptocurrency to a restaurant, you plan your budget at 20 cryptos, and when you go there, they say, no, now it's 25 cryptos. How can that be a currency? And second thing is, which sovereign in the world is going to give up the right to issue currency? And what control is there over it?
Can it flourish not as a currency, but as an investment class?
But investment, what is it? I don't know on what basis you put the value. And I don't know how you can control the supply. I am the owner of the currency. I'll keep on pumping.
Okay. Fair call. Sadeep Singh is asking, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, let's keep this question. Once I finish the question, you can put it in the answered thing. But Sadeep Singh is asking, by how much do you think the way we analyze financial statements and companies will change in the near future? Would implementation of blockchain be seen in the near future in the financial markets? Two questions rolled into one, Mr. Jhunjhunwala.
Financial analysis will never change. Right? But the unknown or the figures which what you cannot put in figures, corporate governance, all those matter. Risk, that may change.
Okay. Okay. Well, Dhruv Mantri, your question has already been answered by Mr. Jhunjhunwala, so I'll pass that. Divyanshu is asking, do you think that investors are overly optimistic when it comes to IPOs and startups? He, of course, talks about...
I can't agree more with him.
Sorry?
I can't agree more with him. I think so.
even startups?
Yeah, because see, nobody knows, first of all, to my understanding of financial markets, the ultimate valuations are based on cash flows. Right? Now, when they will get those cash flows, nobody knows. Just because some Chinese companies had no competition, they could get cash flows and could get huge valuations. I don't. You tell me of one unicorn in India who has a cash flow. She's return on capital. Another thing is when you are subsidizing things. मैं 10 रुपए का आलू 6 रुपए में बेच रहा हूँ तो लोग आलू ले लेंगे ना लेकिन कभी तो 10 रुपए में बेचूंगा फिर क्या होगा so I don't think that I don't see there will be maybe tell me your grapes are sour right but I don't want to invest in startups because startups investment requires a large organization and second economy it's highly speculative and the strike rates are going to be very low it's like a lottery Inam. So, I mean, I don't invest, but there are people who have made money and there are people who make money. And good luck to them.
So your unlisted portfolio is not necessarily a startup portfolio.
Well, the most successful companies, which I have invested in, have an average life of investment of 12 years or 10 to 12 years. One of them, large one, Start Health is only 2 years. And I'm in no hurry.
Okay.
No hurry to take them public. They made 20 investments, 10 turned out to be done. Written off and made zero. 5 did moderately well and 5 did exceedingly well. I mean, I've had 200 times return.
Okay. Well, most people, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, who I spoke to, who know you, say that you de-alienate or alienate your trading mind from your investing mind very well. Devang Beria is asking about, was the transition from a short-term trader to a long-term investor smooth or rather difficult? How does your mindset, psychology, and strategy change?
The transition took place because I had no capital. To invest, you need capital. No father gave. If father had given also, I would not have taken. Because I don't want to be a Joru ka gulam. Right? So how do I get capital? So I thought the only way I can get capital is borrow or trade. And so therefore I started trading. And trading is much greater fun than investment. You get the money next day in your bank. Get phatapat, lay phatapat. And I will say trading is at the heart of all my wealth. Because if I don't own in trading, how will I invest? And I love to trade. And I love to tell people I'm a speculator. What's wrong?
Nothing. But in the same breath, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, I'm presuming you will say that people should learn the art well before doing it because so many people usually lose money.
No, but right. So therefore, my personal opinion to people is don't trade.
Okay.
Out of 10 lakhs, I think 9,99,900 lose. And you will say you trade and tell us no. I said, Daddy, whiskey पीते थे हमको मना करते थे. So it's because trading requires basic defeat of human ego, which very few people have, and recognition of the fact that markets go on extremes on both sides, and there is nothing logical and reasonable there. So you can trade. You will be successful as a trader more with your nature rather than with your trading skills. Your nature, maybe you take a loss, understand excesses, right? Like Harshad Mehta, we knew from day one that this money is bogus money. But we did not short sell until the climax was reached. इसलिए शेयर बाजार में टाइम से ज्यादा टाइमिंग की इंपॉर्टेंस है. So, I mean, and see, you want to be a good trader and good investor, do one thing. Have a mistress and have a wife and keep them apart. So one should not know what the other, and I don't mix my trading with my investment. If I buy a stock and it goes down, I don't put in my investment portfolio. And I don't, because I hold Titan. Titan's price is 1600. I feel it will go down by 100. So I don't sell Titan. I know I'll buy it back in 1500. I keep my portfolio apart. And the stocks which I trade are generally not the stocks in which I have invested.
Okay. That's an important insight. Naman Jain is asking, we have about 7 odd minutes left. Naman Jain is asking that as the world economy becomes more and more borderless, does it become more and more important to invest in foreign markets simultaneously?
Sir, it could be, but finding the opportunities in India itself are so difficult and monitoring them. Why? I mean, it could be important, but I'm not going to invest abroad. And also, government legislative day allows me to remit $1.5 million a year. I mean, which for me is not something that I like to pay attention to.
Right.
And secondly, I think the food at home is so good. The opportunity in India is among the best in the world. Why go and eat outside?
Oh, that's an opinion, all right. Divyansh Shah is asking, Mr. Junjunwala, if in your opinion, what is the weak link, if any, in the Indian economy which could lead to a possible economic crisis in the foreseeable future if exploited or mishandled?
I think the second generation reforms, they are important. Well, otherwise, India will take off. We got to have all this, what the government has announced, the farm laws, the mining laws, the labor laws, the privatization. I think that all has to be carried on.
Hmm.
The FDA announcement.
Um,
The weak link in India was the reforms. Once those reforms take place, then we are Tendulkar and Pant put together.
But Mr. Junjunwala, some of these are not entirely in the hands of the government. Some of these might be. So would
Most
you,
of them are in the hand of the government.
sorry?
I said it is in the hand of the government. If the government does it, the people of India can do it. You create ease of doing business, we need nothing after that.
Okay.
And you disinvest the public sector, so the return on capital goes up. When Mr. Agarwal bought zinc, Hindustan Zinc, his profit was 200 crores. Now his market cap is 3 lakh crores. So therefore, we have skilled people, we're building infrastructure fast, right? There is great scope for improvement. I think people are not understanding what the farm laws will do. It will take 5-7 years. But you are buying aloo for 40 rupees, nobody to buy for 2 rupees in Bengal. The difference will narrow. The farmer will get 12, you will buy in 24. So what we until today I could not store the potatoes in Bengal. So create ease of doing business. Be real. Don't be capitalist. Don't be socialist. Be realist. Understand what this socialism has given us.
Okay.
Don't forget, my friends, that 40% of world GDP in the 17th century was India. This is not my opinion. This is what history books tell us. So don't worry. We are an ancient civilization with great skills in every aspect of life, not only business, food, dance, culture. We gave the world, zero. Then the world was made. There was no maths and no science. So India has an ancient history. We got to go there back.
Yes, indeed. We have time for one final question, and that is, I'm choosing the one from Aryaman Agarwal because there are a bunch of others. So excuse me for missing out some people. But Aryaman is asking that we've heard about your biggest money-making investments and how you grew as an investor. Can you shed light on some of the failures you faced and how you overcame them?
वो क्यों याद दिला रहा है? ठंडा आफ्टरनून में खुशी से बैठे हैं.
Let's change it, chaliye.
No, I have made a lot of mistakes, mainly when I've trusted some young entrepreneurs. And see, I don't mind losing money. But when you trust somebody, you back somebody, you help somebody. You see, for me, for anybody who's in any company or on some of my unlisted companies, what I value is effort. The Gita says, effort is in our hands. Result is in those people's hands, in God's hand. So as long as a person is making a complete effort and we fail, I don't mind. But I have been, and I don't want to take the name, you hurts them. But I have made mistakes about judging humans, and they are not wrong. I am wrong. I judge them wrongly. They are what they always were. So I don't blame them. I blame myself.
That's a very interesting insight, Mr. Jhunjhunwala. Thank you for that. I'll take the liberty of asking one more since we have 2 minutes left. Ritik is asking, what's your opinion on value unlocking of PSUs like ONGC, Coal India, etc. in India? In the same breath, I'm asking you a question from Revant Sharma, who's asking about how much do you think, or what do you think about the disconnect between the stock markets and the informal economy, which is getting dumped, in his words?
I don't think the Indian economy, informal economy, is getting dumped. Right? So they're all fighting. And except in the hospitality sector, where there could be serious damage. I don't see serious damage in any of the other industries. And also in restaurants, what happens? Those restaurants where the real estate is owned by the owner, they will come out with flying colors. And in small restaurants in India, 99% the property is owned by the person who runs the restaurant. As far as the public sector is concerned, I think this journey has started. I think first unlocking will take place in banks. Right? And I'm very bullish on the commodity PSUs, especially steel. And I'm an interested party, so I give a disclosure. Please hear what I say with a pinch of salt. I'm an interested party.
Okay. Well, guys, I think we are done with time. Niyati, Parth, either of you, I think we're done with time. So if we are indeed, let me just, from my side, thank Mr. Jhunjhunwala for giving some amazing answers on a few questions, because they were very good learning. Thanks so much for that, Mr. Jhunjhunwala.
Honorable Sir, thank you so much for your passionate take on markets and keen insights from your journey. It's inspired a lot of budding entrepreneurs and investors out there to take risks and take charge. Your ideas about markets opened up a new perspective for us. I am sure that I speak for the audience when I say that all of us have gained tremendously from this session. Thank you, sir. We would also like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Mr. Neeraj Shah. Thank you so much, sir, for your indispensable inputs and for making the session immensely enriching. Your questions gave voice to queries and shed light on topics we are all affected by. The Economic Society is truly grateful to both of you.